Welcome to Bunyad Podcast by Dr. Monica Nagpal. We did not inherit this world like this. Then how can we give this to our next generation in this form? We need to reflect mindfully on our core values and make conscious efforts towards protecting the planet and also achieve all sustainable development goals. With Bunyad, I, Monica Nagpal, will bring to fore sustainability champions who are striving to bring back harmony with the nature and also dignity of each life. Namaskar दोस्तों. Today again we are here with yet another episode of Bunyad, laying the foundation of sustainable living. And today we have with us Neha Jain. Welcome, Neha.
Hello, namaste everybody.
So, Neha is a social entrepreneur and she is also a climate advocate. And you must be wondering, this young woman, what is she doing with all of this? But that is what we are going to unfold today and find out that how a young woman can really bring about a change. So, I will now request Neha to please introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on this lovely platform. I'm really happy and excited for this chat. I'm Neha Jain, and I am a passionate learner. I'm pursuing applied psychology from Delhi University, and alongside that, I'm extremely passionate about advocating for the intersection of climate, education, and gender. And as mentioned, that I'm also a social entrepreneur, and what the projects are all about, I'm very sure we'll be unfolding through this conversation. The two major projects that I'm currently leading are first Climate Ready. I lead this project called Climate Ready. It stands for Climate Representation, Education, and Action with Delhi Youth. And it is a program where we integrate climate education, action, and leadership through eco clubs in the government schools. And this is an intervention with school students. The second project is Miraki. I'm the co founder of Miraki, which is a business incubator for empowering rural women artisans to run their handicraft businesses sustainably. And yes, here we are to talk about very important themes which are intersecting on these themes. So I'll pass it back to you, and let's have a great conversation together.
Absolutely, absolutely, Neha. I'm so overwhelmed and overjoyed by the kind of work that you are doing at this young age. So, just to again that inquisitiveness, that how did you come like in this sustainability field? What brought you in this sustainability field?
Sure. So, before sharing what really brought me, I'll share also a little bit of background. So, I was born in this small town called Ranchi, which is in Jharkhand. It's called the city of waterfalls, and I could really say that I fell in love with nature there, and that continued while I grew up in Delhi. And Delhi being the most polluted cities, unfortunately, in terms of air, land, water, all kinds of pollution. So I think when that love for nature met that climate emergency and the destruction that's happening in the environment, and how it's impacting people differently in different places. So I think that awareness, when that met, I think that is when action was born. That is when I felt compelled to do something about it. As a child, I used to question, why this, why that, why is this problem arising? But to questioning, what can I do about it? Is there something that, instead of being a part of the problem, I can also become a part of the solution? I think that shift in question, that shift in mindset led me to work in this space. It was about when I was 15, when I entered a slum where I decided that I want to explore, I want to do something that I have chosen. So I think volunteering, which means to do something by your own will. And that is what I decided at that point, that okay, I want to volunteer, I want to do something beyond the four walls of my school and my home. So I went out there in slums. I used to teach students and kids there, who lived in marginalized communities. And it was then when I was struck with the realization that what are the grassroots realities. I could see a huge waste management issue. I could see a huge gap in awareness about different issues. So that is how my journey started. And I just kept advocating for the causes I felt passionate about. I used to teach students, I used to break myths and taboos around periods and menstrual hygiene, talk about sustainable menstrual hygiene, go on about campaigning for forest conservation and effective waste management. So, slowly and steadily, these projects led me to where I am. Advocating for these different, sustainable development goals, different issues that I feel passionate about, and it affects all of us on a day-to-day basis, whether it be education or climate change or environmental disruption or menstrual hygiene or health and hygiene awareness. So all of these issues are really close to my heart, and I just want to do more, learn more, and keep applying what my learnings are into the groundwork, which is at the grassroots level.
Superb, superb. So here is a small girl who is 15 years of age, and probably as a part of SUPW, I think a lot of schools take children for volunteering, and because they get some grades or some points on that, and that lot of children go and do all of that. But then this one girl is not stopping there. She's not concerned about the grades and the points that she's getting for whatever she's doing, but she goes further and she continues to do that work, and now that has become her passion, and that has also almost become her profession, and that is also the purpose of her life now. So I must say needs a big applaud for you, and we really appreciate Neha, that what you are doing is amazing. At this young age you have such beautiful thoughts and such action oriented approach that you have, that makes us, actually, I'm really feeling proud, and I'm feeling also very hopeful that when we have the youth like you, a lot of things will be taken care of. Yeah. So, as I was mentioning it other day also when we had an intro, that how did your family take to all of this? Like, I know because mothers and parents will say, "What is this? थोड़े दिन का फतूर है, ये निकल जाएगा." They would have settled for that when you would have started. You this will just die down. But now that it has really uh, bloomed into a new kind of a passion for you, so how did your parents react and your family per se?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting perspective. Because, firstly, a very amusing fact that I would like to share is that you mentioned about school offers such volunteering programs, and when that is the case, usually, family is also very supportive because it's coming from a sense of safe place. But for me, it didn't start through the school. It was an independent initiative. At that point of time, our school didn't offer a lot of the on ground community engagement programs for students, and even if they did, I wasn't aware. So I decided to just search NGOs working towards education or menstrual hygiene, and a list came out to me, and I just started cold mailing and writing messages to those NGOs, and that is how it started for me. So it was very interesting because it was something that I found out about myself. There was no, usually families feel that it is something that could be unsafe going out in the ground without any prior
Yeah.
experience into it.
Experience and any
Exactly.
support system that you have, you need a support system, some elders going along with you, and you are just working like that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So there were a lot of apprehensions for a while. I didn't dare to share it with everybody that I'm doing the volunteering tasks. So I just started it out like a young rebel at heart, that no, I would want to do by myself, and I can take my decision, and I can take care of myself, while at the same time it might inspire young people to go forward with that. But at the same time, I would like to say that go for it and make those choices, but at the same time also take care of your well-being. So
Yeah.
it was something that I associated with some genuine NGOs who were working for a long while, which actually became my support system at that point. So it was not all out in the wild without anybody. So yeah, those connections, cold mailing and messaging helped. I got the replies, and then I started. And when I was sure that this is something that I want to pursue it,
Hmm.
this is something that I want to really follow, it was then I actually shared with my family as well. And there were initial resistance about, how do you make it into a career, or how do you actually make it sustainable. um, but those were the questions that even I was figuring out at that moment. So even I didn't have answers to those
Hmm.
questions for my family or my parents, but I just kept doing it alongside my studies. And and now it's a big part of who I am. Apart from what I do, it's also a big part of who I am, which is really
Yes.
really big thing. And now they are really supportive, and they usually share any contacts or any information that they receive about this field, that okay, I heard about sustainability, I think I should connect them with you. So it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
that soft evolution, I would say, in them as well. So it's great to see and receive so much support from family. And yeah, and just you have that unconditional support system with you. So I think it's been a great journey so far, and I really hope that as I continue, this support stays, and I'm able to make multifold impact.
Absolutely. I'm sure it will happen because it is your perseverance, your good intentions, which have really paid all of this to you, that paid back, that you got the right support system, you got the right people around you, because you had that kind of a pure intention for what you were doing. It was nothing for the social media to just put the pictures. It was real, real from the inside that it had come. Because what came as a child to you, you have not let it down, you have not let it die inside you, but you have nurtured, and it has really bloomed into a full time uh, way for you to live a life. And as you very well said, that this is what you are now. You are what you are doing. And if that synchronicity is there, that really helps to continue our passion forward. Otherwise, we are into two different modes. Then we live a different life, we do a different life, and that spoils everything. So amazing journey so far, Neha. But now that you have come this far, I would like to ask you, what is the impact that is being created by whatever the two kinds of things that you are doing, Miraki and Ready, that you shared with us? What is the impact that is created?
Yeah, wonderful. So, impact is something that can be measured at different levels. It can be in the form of numbers, it can also be in the form of impact and influence that you leave in people's hearts and their smiles. And I've been fortunate to see both. So I'm really happy to share that in at Climate Ready, we just started off with a pilot in the government schools. It was just an experiment to see how students receive, because we are dealing with the underserved communities and students who don't even receive a basic education, let alone climate education. So it was a leap of faith and experiment that we decided, no, it is very important for students and children to know about their environment, to know and also to act on it, because it is something that is not different from their core subjects. It is strongly interlinked with all the core subjects, whether it be science, social science, economics, geography, um, political science, leadership. So there's a strong link with all the core subjects, and we need to integrate it together so that students not only know about environment, but they also know about the soft skills, and they can grow as individuals. So we also had skills like communication, leadership, storytelling, advocacy, and a lot more other mediums, creative advocacy. So yeah, so this is how it started. And now we have about a quarter of 300 plus student leaders who are actually aware of climate change, of environment, and they are acting towards their life projects. They have worked towards making their own school campuses sustainable by doing projects like composting, waste segregation drives, rainwater harvesting, vegetable gardening, making eco bricks out of plastic trash. So these
Wow.
projects have really, really given us hope that if given the right opportunity and capacity, students, children, youth, regardless of their backgrounds, can do anything, and they have so much power.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
This
so
is
we
so wonderful,
we
so wonderful.
thank
Like
you.
actually targeting the students because as they say, no, you catch them young. So those are the minds which can be really trained into the way. And when we share with them the kind of it is that it is for your own good, it is for your own society's good, for your own community, for your own country. So that really bells forth and they are ready to do whatever. So it is just the kind of direction we are putting them into, and that is the right direction that you have bring forward for them. So very good.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have that empowerment. So I know how it feels like to have that. And if more and more children, young people can have it, I think everyone has an infinite potential. It's just about nudging that right feeling, thought, in a child's mind that can create a lot of difference. So again, you said about career paths that usually it's very difficult to convince families. So we also had these difficult conversations with students there. So my question was, what do you actually want to become? Someone said cricketer, principal, teacher, um, farmer. So my only request was not to, okay, just leave that and come to the environmental domain per se. It's not about distinguishing that domain, but it is about telling them that it is intertwined with everything.
Yes,
if you are
actually.
if you become a principal, you can also introduce a program like this in your own school. If you are a cricketer, you can use your reach and traction to tell your audience what sustainable practices or sustainable living looks like. If you want to be a farmer, it can be a huge role that you can play in the organic farming, or actually making sure that future generations have safe and clean food. So it is about making sure that they learn the interconnectedness between all the sectors, and not just environment as a separate
Absolutely.
entity,
Absolutely.
domain.
Yeah.
So that is one. Second, in the second project, which is called Miraki, we have recently emerged as a winner project recognized by Dior and UNESCO in the global conference, which was held in Paris, France. And I
Wow.
was very, very humbled to represent the project there. And we have so far penetrated into the state of Uttarakhand, where we are working with the women artisans who do the crochet knitting art, uh, to help learn entrepreneurship skills, get market linkages and networks to grow their businesses. So
Hmm.
the idea is simple. I mean, it emerged from the fact that we've seen all our grandmothers and mothers doing some kind of art form like knitting or embroidery or sewing, but they never got a chance to promote it commercially or make an identity through this art, which is somewhere suppressed in the patriarchal norms that we have. that we've had. So the idea was simple, and the inspiration is from my late great grandmother and grandmothers of my co-founders as well. So we all connected on this story, and then we decided that okay, we need to tap onto these women artisans who are in different pockets of India working on different art forms, and bring them up, by telling them that your work is fantastic, your art is amazing, and we want to promote it and make it reach to a larger audience. So that is what we do. We focus on building these artisans as entrepreneurs and make an identity for themselves and be financially empowered. So
Mm.
right now we are in existing in one state, but now we are expanding after the success in the conference. We are planning to scale it up to 5+ states in India, reaching out to the communities which are at the most grassroots level, and provide them with the right resources, skills, and tools to grow their businesses in a sustainable manner. So
Wonderful. That is so wonderful. But I just, this is a very side question. I think we have not even discussed this before, but this is a question which I really just came up to me, that how do you have a kind of a market for all of these works? Because a lot of people you are doing at a very young age, and I'm seeing a lot of women entrepreneurs also going this way. They are actually helping a lot of artisans bring out these cultures, and this is helping to actually bring live again the dying cultures. There are so many art forms which are dying because there is nobody which is showcasing them. But because of this, a lot of every state actually has their own art forms, their own drawings, and everything is there. So they are actually promoting and bringing out this in form of different aspects. So, how do you think there is a market for all of this, and especially outside India? Do you think there is a market for? And do you not think that some this is just a thought, and just think that when we create some things like these, are we not even creating little more trash in our houses?
hmm. Definitely. That's a very, very great insight into it. First, answering the first question, I feel that there are a lot of markets, but they are not getting, the artisans are not getting visibility in those platforms. They are usually represented with people who have access to resources, and, they have prior connections. But people and the artisans at the grassroots level, they are usually exploited in this scenario, because the companies or the brands usually tie up with them. They buy products at a very low price and then sell them at 10x price with some additions of packaging or marketing and storytelling. So usually the people who must reach the must have the benefits of their hard work, it does not reach them. So
Hmm.
that is the gap that we saw, whether it be women artisans or farmers at the local level. So that is why what we thought, that we don't want to become a middle person,
Hmm.
or create a brand of artisanal products, but
Hmm.
we are acting as a catalyst who are helping them with the training of the entrepreneurial skills. For
Hmm.
example, social media sales, marketing, e-commerce onboarding, and then supporting them through the process, hand holding them through the process, so that they could also focus on product quality, product diversification, and look at other marketing aspects with their team. So this is the approach, and how we find market is by collaborating. So we have a lot of there are a lot of e-commerce platforms which you see, and government has also laid out schemes
Hmm.
for the artisans who are working on handicrafts. So we help them upload their platforms like Gem Portal or ONDC. They are run by platform, and they are trying to create a platform like UPI for payments, which is a universal platform, unified platform for payments. So similarly, they are creating a unified platform for artisans. So now we give them training on how do you go about uploading the products and meet the standards of delivery and logistics and customer relationship management. So once they do that, then they have proper access to the platform independently. So we are
Hmm.
not someone who are taking commission or a fee or middle person. They are independent business owners like anybody else.
Yes,
So
yes,
we
yes.
are just making upskilling happen. So this is one part of the question. So we provide markets like this apart from other linkages. The second part of the question, that we are generating waste, or for example, pushing consumerism. So as a person who is also a climate advocate, this was a big dilemma that I also faced, that yeah, it is so important that on one hand we are looking at the environmental challenges, and other hand we are seeing more and more products being sold. However, when we look at women artisans, the artisanal products, the beauty about the indigenous traditional forms is that they are inherently sustainable, from the raw material to the processing of it, and to the utility and repurposing that you can do with the products. It really it really has a deep thought. For example, if I take the example of Himachal, I came across a group which was traditionally they call binna making, which is
Hmm.
making of rugs, mattresses out of textile waste.
Yes,
So yeah, so what they do is they collect the textile waste, and then they create this traditionally really auspicious and really recognized products called binnas. And then this, they are firstly using textile waste as the raw material, and then when that has been made, it is used for years and years. And then when everything is over, even then it is repurposed as a doormat, or as a way of cleaning houses, or it can have different purposes. So
yes,
essentially
yes,
it has a really really long shelf life. So sustainability also means the kind of durability we have for the product. Where is it coming from? Is it ethical or not? So we are also considering these questions in the process of identifying the artisan collectives that we are working with. Although we have a long way to go from here, but still this is something that's a key parameter that we are looking at. We've also included in our modules on making sustainability and ethical practices, where they can actually make the processes more sustainable and at the same time affordable. Something
yeah,
that is very luxurious that only a certain section of people can afford. But yeah, something that really gives them the due credit of what they are working on, and also reaches customers at a larger level. So these are certain things that on the way I'm also learning. My team is also from different backgrounds, so we are all exploring and experimenting together. But yes, this is a constant question that we ask ourselves, that is it something that's aligning, is it something that is aligning to our mission and values. So
yes.
yeah.
I just had the thought, and you have beautifully answered that. I am satisfied with what you have. I'm sure audience will also have this kind of feeling that the indigenous products that is made by these people is helping them to become financially stable, economically independent, and also beautifying your home. And you can also then creatively repurpose it. So that is in your hand. You want to just throw it, or you can now repurpose whatever you are taking. So you, when you buy some things, have that in mind that you can repurpose whatever your clothing, whatever your furniture, or whatever you are hanging on your wall, how you can actually repurpose all of that, and not just use as a fancy thing and just throw it and put it into trash probably every month or every 6 months. So that has to be really taken care of. Yeah, so now that we come to a little closing part of our podcast, I would like you to tell us now some practical tips which we always tell in our podcast, that what is a single person, how an individual lay person can contribute in the way you are working. So what is the contribution of that person?
Sure. Thank you. So, it's very important to make anything that we talk about practical. So, first is that find your passion areas. As I said, that there's no one size fits all. I cannot lay down, 10 tips which you can follow, without your interest in it. We all have heard about these tips like, save water and switch off lights when not in use, plant trees, things like this in textbooks since ages. But there's very few times that people actually take that initiative and consciously do it. So I would just request the audience to identify what interests you, and what do you want to actually do which will help you grow as well as create an impact on the community where you are living.
Hmm.
So identify that, and some of the practices that I have learned along the way, especially if we are talking about environment. So I would request you, urge you all to consider doing these practices like waste segregation, segregating your waste into wet and dry waste minimum, so that people who actually collect your waste, they do not have to do that work again on that landfill site. Because if you actually go there and see the condition of the rack, because you'll understand that how inhumane it can get. So having a dignity for all kinds of profession, and making sure that we are taking care of our waste respectfully. Second, when you are segregating waste, you can do composting out of the wet waste. You can make compost. It's very easy. You can take matkas, you can take composters or a plastic bin if you have, and create some holes and use that to make compost, which can also then go to your kitchen garden, or a nursery that you might have in your society, or garden near you, a park near you. Thirdly, again, as ma'am also mentioned, repurpose, recycle, reuse. Consider reducing the waste that we generate, and also reduce the plastic use. We do not care about sometimes and it's very common challenge that we face in a day-to-day life, that we do not have an alternative for plastic. But if we consciously look at it, for example, even if you don't substitute your plastic with paper bag or a cloth bag, if you have 5 plastic bags already at home, consider reusing it again and again, rather than just having a single use plastic and wasting it. Consider retaining it and reusing it again and again. If you could allocate a cloth bag instead, or a jute bag instead of it, that will be wonderful, and even you will feel wonderful about it, because you are actually creating a lot of difference. And you know one person makes a lot of difference, uh, because there's a quote that if uh, you know a person saying that one person doesn't make a difference, and they throw a plastic bag, and then the other side of the picture said 6 billion people. So it's basically a representation of how every person can contribute. These are just some ways of going about sustainable living and thinking the way we live. But it can be really helpful. And if you are not able to do anything at all, I would really like you all to connect with some organization, NGO, or group, because when you get into that community, when you join that community, you will definitely be convinced that you should do more and learn more about it. You can also connect with me, or even Dr. Monica ma'am. She is also building that beautiful community through Bunyad, her project. So I think consider joining such communities, NGOs, movements which are larger than yourselves and are tackling some issues. So yeah, do consider joining them, and I really hope that we all become a part of this large movement and do this together for our future.
Absolutely. So wonderfully said. So wonderfully and so profoundly said. I must say, these are the tips everybody knows, but the way you have brought it together is amazing. And so, last insightful words from Neha. She's so young, but she has the wisdom of a very, very old person. I must say, oldies are not doing that much of things that the way she is doing. So, I would request Neha to share her some words of wisdom with all of us again.
I think I'm not sure about wisdom, but but what I've learned from my limited experience and knowledge, and interacting with amazing people like you, I would say all of you. to, you know, dream, dream for yourself and dream for something larger than yourself. It is a constant process of exploration. You might not know where to start or what to start with, but the real deal will be when you actually look inside yourself and introspect and understand how to start with what you have and where you are, and make the most of it. So please, you know, work for something larger than yourself. And you know, sustainability is something that you'll realize is a natural part of our being, because we are not different from nature. We are nature. And when we strengthen that oneness with nature, even we flourish and enrich and grow. So connect with nature, dream, work for your purpose, and never give up. And keep meeting and learning from beautiful people like Monica ma'am. She she is such a vibrant person. So support such initiatives, and we are in this together.
Yes,
Old, young, you know, from regardless of backgrounds, genders. Let's all come together and fight for our common future and make a sustainable world. Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. Wonderfully said, wonderfully said. And especially for the youth, this is the message, especially for the youth, that you can do so many things. You can really do so many things, and you can actually take the whole movement forward. No, it is you all who can really take this movement forward. When this young girl can do in her capacity so much, like a united work. No, so it is today what I really like about the youth is that there is no competition. They are teaching us to collaborate. So it is beautifully that they are doing. They are not competing with each other, because they know when they are together they can do more.
Yeah.
No, one person can not do that much. When you are united, you can do so much. So let us really collaborate, as Neha said, and we will take all of this to really to that achievable end which we all want by 2030 or probably by 2050. But we will achieve the sustainable development goals, and we will have a healthier planet. So thank you so much, Neha. It was so wonderful speaking to you, and really, really thanks to you for taking out time on your college hours. She's still studying and she's doing so much. And if you are anybody else who are hearing this and you resonate with whatever we have spoken, and you have some experience in sustainability, you can contact me and you can be the next guest on the podcast. And we can continue to create these ripples of awareness and really move towards a sustainable future together. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.